Welcome to the Business Spotlight. Oh, today I'm excited. I've got Rick Walton with us. He is from Lifeboat Lettings, a very dedicated property investor, also a letting agent. And you guys are transforming the property market in Kent. So
We're trying to.
I'm really looking forward to this. I'm going to dive right in, Rick. What exactly do you do, for how long, and yeah, just a bit around the journey up to now.
Okay, I'll take you way back. So, life before 2006, I used to be a mechanical and electrical engineer by profession, working over at Discovery Park at Sandwich for Pfizer's was my last corporate job. I was an installation engineer and validation engineer, so I used to bring machinery into the company and test it and all that kind of thing. That was my corporate life, if you like. So I went off to university and followed a degree in engineering, and that's my background, if you like. And a lot of that was around kind of project management and working with multidisciplined teams, working on very tight timeframes and stuff like that. And then through a life circumstance, unfortunately, my wife lost her mum very suddenly at a young age, and it was a kind of a throws everything up in the air moment. And we decided to follow property investing because her mum had already started investing. So she kind of laid a path, and we said, Okay, let's explore this and see how this works." And when we started in property, it was kind of selfish reasons in some respects. It was meant to be just a little hobby thing in the background as a bit of a pension pot, as many people do sort of stumble into property. It's just become a lot bigger than that, and it's now full-time profession and businesses and what have you. So fast forward a few years now, we've been investing since 2006 was when I left Pfizer's. Got myself educated and up to speed with how to get into investments and all that kind of thing. And then we started with some little tiny buy-to-let properties in Ashford, Kent, which is where I'm based, with my wife. Initially, it was this husband and wife team doing little refurbs, and literally I was on the tools myself with paintbrush in hand and stuff like that in the early days, and trying to avoid that now. But I still like to keep my eye in every now and again. I guess it's the engineer in me. I like a project, and I like fixing things and sorting things out. I just have to be disciplined and allow other people to do that for me these days. So we set up with a really small portfolio, just did one, cut our teeth on that, got familiar with the processes and working with builders and trades and all that stuff. And now, fast forward 18 years, me and my business partners, we control nearly 15 million in assets. We've got about 100 plus tenancies ourselves in our own businesses. But then as a managing agency at Lifeboat Lettings, we manage just shy of 300 tenancies across the county. So it's gone from a tiny little thing to quite a big business in a relatively short period of time. But we've grown it quite organically, as believe it or not, I'm quite risk averse and actually like to do things quite straightforward. And I'm not particularly gung ho or brash when it comes to investment risks and stuff like that. Just steady, focused investment on everyday buy-to-let properties that people want to live in. And we also specialize in something called houses in multiple occupation, which are sort of larger shared houses, where we tend to have five, maybe six working professionals under one roof. And they will share maybe common facilities like kitchen and stuff like that. And that's quite an appealing, cost-effective sort of form of accommodation in today's marketplace. It allows people to be quite transient if they want to, moving around. It doesn't commit them to a mortgage, but it also allows them to perhaps save up for a deposit if that's what they wish to do as well.
Wow, brilliant. Rick, thank you for sharing that very inspiring journey there. Could you share a little bit around some of the biggest lessons you've learned in both business, but
Yeah.
also as a property investor?
Yeah, sure. So as a property investor, one of the earliest lessons, and it actually came about from engineering world. When I was an engineer, I got pulled aside by one of my colleagues, and I was a contractor basically in my last corporate position, and he said, "No, no, 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 no. You don't want to be doing it like that. Here's a clever way of doing your taxation. Have a chat with these guys." And for a very small token amount, I can't remember the exact figures, but it was something like 25, 30 pounds a week out of my pay packet. I had this tax advisory service that allowed me to set myself up as a very tax efficient engineer. And as a result, through no changes to the rate that I was charged to my company, I received a massive amount more in my pay packet at the bottom line, every single week. And that really showed me, if you go to the right people and pay your advisors well and get the right advice, it can save you or make you a fortune if you get that right little bit of information. So that was one of the things that I carried through with me into property investment. As painful as it was, I invested in myself, but also invested in my advisors as much as possible to get there as fast as possible. So without taking anything away from it, we've still had to put in a lot of effort. We're nothing special in the sense that I've only copied and mimicked people that have been before me. I'm not a trailblazer. I don't come up with pioneering ideas necessarily in property investment. I just follow the best bits and then try and replicate it as best I can, learning along the way. And I have another simple mantra, which is I don't have time to make all the mistakes myself, so I don't try. I try and copy the best bits of people that have been successful in business in all walks of life. And try and emulate that where I can. So that's served me really well in the property investment business. With regards to the lettings business, that has been a very different thing because it's the first time that me and my business partners, as kind of entrepreneurs, just making it up as we go along to a certain extent and doing it our own way for many years, have suddenly got to adhere to rules and regulations of HR and taking on staff and payroll and VAT and all this kind of stuff. And that has been a very big steep learning curve, I would say, in all the small moving parts that are necessary to keep your business compliant and legal. So I think the biggest learning there was really around trying to sort of take a step back, which isn't easy always for me, and allowing other people to fill those gaps and bringing in those areas of expertise. So bookkeeper and accountant, sales and marketing or branding. I can't do everything myself, and that's one of the key things that I've learned is bringing in key people that have got far better skills than I have in different areas of the business to complement what we're trying to achieve, basically.
Yeah, that's a real golden nuggets there, Rick. Thank you for that. The best advice you would give a person just starting out in business or property or both?
Okay, let's do the property one first. So I used to be a coach and presenter for a training company. So I've taught about 5,000 individuals how to get into buy-to-let investment and HMO investments. I used to be a speaker trainer on the circuit. Worked with a lot of multinationals, South Africans in particular, on my journey to the point that I spent my honeymoon in South Africa actually as a result of that. But yeah, real interesting journey. And I would say it's not as easy today as it has been in the past, for sure, because of the margins being squeezed a little bit. There's a lot more regulation and all the rest of it. That said, it's still achievable, but you've got to pay so much attention to making sure that you do your research, do your due diligence, making sure you understand what you're getting into, and not overcommitting yourself too soon. So I see too many people chasing the shiny penny, looking for the ultimate cure in one property deal, and then they end up taking on too much, and it just stresses them out and could financially cripple them as well if they're not careful. That said, I would say there is safety in numbers. So buying something like a block of flats or a HMO where you've got multiple tenancies under one freehold title may be better than one little buy to let, perhaps, if your budget allows. Just because if you get one or two rooms empty or flats empty, you've still got income coming in from the other property. So it's kind of hedging and protecting against that. One buy to let, and the tenant doesn't pay or gets out of a job or anything like that, then you've got no income stream coming in whatsoever. So safety in numbers in that respect. In the lettings agency side and business generally, I would say delegate as fast as you feel comfortable to, or outsource as fast as you feel comfortable to. Not something that comes naturally to me. I'm a self-confessed little bit of a control freak, and I like to keep my eyes on everything that's going on. But you can't. If you want your business to grow bigger than you are, then you have to get comfortable letting go and allowing other people to grow different parts of your business for you. And I'm smiling because if my business partners were listening to this, I'm probably the last person they'd expect to say that, because I'm the worst one for it. I really struggle sometimes because it's been our baby. We've grown it from zero up to a big multi-million-pound business now. I struggle letting go sometimes. That's my own problem that I have to deal with.
I appreciate the honesty there, Rick.
Thank you.
But I think many of those that watch and listen here can relate to that.
Yeah.
Really simple but very powerful insights there. Thank you. What is one thing you wish more people knew about your industry?
That's a good question. I think generally I see too many people dabbling. I see too many people thinking, this property thingy, they've seen a program that features Martin Roberts or Sarah Beanie or one of the other TV personalities and go, yeah. And I've worked with Martin in the day, back in the day, and it's not as easy as they make out on the telly, unfortunately. I would say don't go into it as a hobby. Would be one of my sort of personal pet hates. I see far too many people just going, oh yeah, it's easy. And there is a certain amount of bravado needed in order to make it a success, and just don't overthink it maybe sometimes. But that said, I think you'd be foolhardy if you went into it without really understanding what it is that you're getting into. So if you're going to do it, you need to treat it like a job, a profession, put the hours in that is expected of that, and totally immerse yourself in it and learn all that you can about the subject matter, like you would do if you were studying to be an architect or a GP or whatever profession. So see too many people that dabble rather than do it as a professional. I think is the biggest one I see.
Yeah, brilliant advice there. We often say to our clients, you've got to learn before you earn. And there's a lot of learning before it returns on
I
the
have a little
investment.
saying, from the training days, which is, it takes a long time to be an overnight success.
Yes.
And it's very true, because people see the end result and go, oh, it's all right for you. It's like, you don't know half of it. You don't know the 15 years journey it's taken to get to that point. So never judge by someone by the end result. Judge them by asking them questions and how did you get there? What was the tricky bits, like you're doing with me now? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of overcoming hurdles or challenges, what's one of the biggest hurdles you had to overcome in business, Rick? And what did you learn from that?
Well, like I say, one of the massive setbacks initially, emotionally and what have you, was losing my wife's mum. My wife was only 23 at the time. Her mum was only 52, so it was very, very sudden. Unfortunately, it was a form of cancer that took her very, very suddenly. That was a real tough time, understandably, for my wife's grief, but also for unanswered questions of, do I want to be doing engineering for the rest of my days, or do I want to, with all this uncertainty going on, completely change our lifestyle and give up the security of, I think I was on about £50,000 a year salary at the time, so it was nice and comfortable in some respects, but I had nothing to show for it. I wasn't investing that wisely into assets or anything like that at all at that point. I was just spending it as fast as I was making it. I didn't have anything to show for it. That was probably one of the toughest personal times in it. And then more recently, unfortunately, I lost my dad at the start of COVID as well. And that has hit me quite hard. And I don't mind saying that. It's the first time I felt the need to reach out and get some guidance on that, because I couldn't solve the unanswered questions myself. I needed a little bit of a sounding board and advice to do that. So I think we have to get away from this feeling of trying to be able to solve everything ourselves and figuring it all out ourselves, and being prepared to ask others for their input and their opinions so that we can find our way through that. But I think from a property point of view, one of the toughest ones that I had to face was a deal that didn't go quite according to plan. And it will happen from time to time. Yeah, if you're investing enough, and it was quite some time ago now, probably 15, 16 years ago, I think it was now. And I don't want to tempt fate, so I'm touching the wooden desk at the moment. It was a bit of a speculative investment. It was a property down in Brighton and Hove, and it was basically, we were buying the roof space. So, and the plan was to build a very nice 2-bedroom penthouse flat on top of the building. Long story short, it didn't happen. We couldn't get permission. We appealed it, and in between appealing it as well, the planning laws changed, which meant that the property that was within Hove district now became under Brighton, who had even tighter planning regulations and all the rest of it. So we just had to walk away from that one. That was a £17,000 mistake, but you kind of have to take that one on the chin and move on. Do I want to repeat it? No, not really. It was quite painful at the time. Have we made similar mistakes? No, we've learned a lot from that, and we ask better questions now so that we protect the risk a little bit better than that now.
Yeah, that is really great piece of advice, and thank you for sharing that experience, both personal challenges and in business. What's the key to success for you?
Really simple. It boils down to whatever you do, whether it be personal or business. You've got to enjoy what you do. It's as simple as that. You know, I had this thing in engineering and I was really trying to climb the career ladder, and this is a great metaphor for it. Problem was the ladder was put up against the wrong wall for me. I got to sort of fairly high up the rungs of the ladder, looked around, and I didn't like what I saw. It wasn't the right playing field for me. So although I was quite successful, I came out with a good degree and I got a good job fairly early on. I was only in engineering for 6 or 7 years before I decided to jump ship. So I got up to, consultant level fairly quickly. It wasn't for me. And I knew that if I wanted to start a family and get married and settle down and have children and all the rest of it, it wasn't the kind of lifestyle that would support that. Because as in my particular role, I was bringing in equipment from all over Europe. So it meant traveling for long periods of time when we were commissioning the machines and stuff like that. And it just wasn't the lifestyle I wanted to grow a family. And property, thankfully, there was a lot of unknowns in the early days. I didn't have all the answers. But I just had this sense that it would give us more flexibility in the way that we controlled our life, and it has. It's not been easy all the way through, and there's been some strong challenges along the way, but it has certainly given me a lot more flexibility on how I spend my life, who I have to report to, and now really it's at the beck and call of the wife and the children mainly, and the business partners, of course. But I'm not dictated by a 9 to 5 employment. I've got a lot more flexibility in that respect to do things that I want to do and spend time with the people that I want to be around as well, and that's important to me.
Absolutely agree with you on that. Thanks, Rick. Best business book you've read, or even a podcast, if you've got that you can recommend to others.
Yeah, I've got a couple on the go at the moment, so I can't really sort of talk about those. I'm just Diary of a CEO by Stephen Bartlett. I just finally got around to buying that after many hints that I should be buying it. I've bought the book there. I think in my early days in the property investment side of things, certainly for opening my mindset to being a bit more open to other possibilities, was a great book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's a classic, and even better than that, I would say the second book, Cash Flow Quadrant, because that gives more detail on the what rather than the sort of mindset and all this bit, but they're both important. Another one that I like is I can't remember the exact title of it. I'm looking at my bookshelf now. I think it's called The Compound Effect as well. Can't place who the author is. I want to say Darren Hardy or someone like that. It might be Darren Hardy or it might be Jeff Olson. I get the two muddled up because they're very, very similar. But the slight edge, the compound effect, they're very similar in concept, which is the idea. It's a bit like Olympian mentality. It's doing things just 1% better than you were yesterday. And those compound effects all add up. The tiny little slices will add up to a lot more. So if you expect to buy a gym membership, for example, and be super toned the next week, it doesn't work like that. However, if you do a little thing each week regularly for the next year, I can guarantee your health overall will be in a better position at the end of the year. Maybe a little bit, but maybe a lot, who knows? But it's that small little steps will all make up, to a big result at the end of the day. Not noticeable at the start, and that's something that I pride myself on. Is you have to be bold enough to make those little changes, but on the same note, be disciplined to stick at it and believe in the process that it will come good eventually. So one of the things outside of my property life is I do long distance running, but 4 years ago I could barely run 3 or 4 miles. now I've just done a race last week, which was, over 50 miles and 10.5 hours of running, so it's amazing where you can go if you put the effort in. But that's taken a lot of time to get to that point. Again, it wasn't an overnight success. It takes discipline and motivation. But I think that's the key thing. You've got to be passionate about what you do in order to make it successful. But yeah, I've got, if perhaps, yeah, well, I could share a million different books that have had an impact on my life, but those are some of the most profound ones. The Slight Edge, Compound Effect, Rich Dad Poor Dad are certainly up there, just because they're easy to digest, but they're kind of everyday experiences as well. They're very relatable books. I think that's the main thing why they work for me.
Yeah, yeah. No, those are brilliant recommendations, and I'm so glad that you shared them there. Rick, thank you so much. If you could magically improve one area of your business right now, what would it be?
Oh, wow, that's a good one. Um, On the property investment side, I'm always looking for more investment partners, and we have to be very careful and selective on that because it's a working relationship, and there's obviously FCA regulations and stuff like that we have to be mindful of, etc. I'm looking to buy more deals this year in the investment side of things, and with deals you need money to go with it. Simple as that. That's how we've grown our portfolio, in a quick way over a long period of time. Steadily using other investors' money as well as money from lenders and the banks and stuff like that. So that's one thing. But I think improvement in the lettings agency side. Well, we just invested quite a lot of money into a year-long mentoring program for that business because we're believers in continuous professional development in ourselves as well as our staff and what have you. But if there was a magic wand, I would say a magic tap that turned on a regular flow of new landlords that realized they needed our services. And I say it deliberately like that because I speak to a lot of self-managed landlords who do not realize they need our services, and the world is changing out there. There's a lot of regulation coming in that they're just naive to. And I saw a property last week in Dover. It was scary how unregulated this property was and is still currently let as 7 rooms with no licensing, not the proper planning permission in, not paying correct council tax. And I'm just thinking, wow, this could be a £30,000 fine plus, other fines for this particular landlord. And he's not even aware, blissfully naive. And that's quite scary in today's age. So this is where we're trying to educate our landlord clientele that it isn't easy. You need to be up to speed with all the regulations, because if you get it wrong, the fines can be quite significant in our industry, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's true for business as well. This, if we don't know, we don't know. And that's a thing that can really impact on the bottom line.
But unfortunately, ignorance, especially when it comes to things like employment law and HS, health and safety executive, ignorance is no excuse. They will not take it. So, as a business owner, we are supposed to be big boys and girls and know the rules that we're playing by. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly with that. Thanks for that, Rick. So what does the future look like? What's in the pipeline? What is the big next stage for you?
I've already alluded to, we've just undertaken a commitment to improve our business and grow it even further in the next year or so. All throughout my career, we've had different mentors, educators, trainers, and all that. Sometimes we have a quiet period where we actually then start to implement stuff and move it forward as well. And that's where we've been for the last couple of years. So I've spent a bit too much time in the lifeboat letting side of thing and not in our investment side. So I'm trying to balance that out again now. So we, in Lifeboat Lettings, we have just purchased another agency in October. That was a small agency of 50 buy-to-lets. It was a friend that we've known for about 12 years, something like that. She wanted to retire out of that business. It was a perfect fit for us. So we made her an offer, and we've incorporated that business into our portfolio, which is quite nice. We want to do the same again. So if there's any letting agents that want to retire or find an exit strategy, then I'm happy to talk. Now, to put that into context, this woman was really keen on the idea, but that still took 3 years to come from starting conversation to finalizing the deal. And that was more around when she was ready for that to happen. We were just keeping regularly in contact with her, and she decided when the time was right, and we were there. But yeah, we're looking to buy more businesses to add to our portfolio because it's quicker than, you know, me trying to find individual landlords. We still do that, of course, and we will still support a landlord whether they've got one house or 50 houses. It doesn't really matter. They get the same quality of service no matter what. But from a business growth perspective, it's far easier for me to buy in an existing business as long as it's operating okay.
Yeah.
And then within the property investment, well, we're really ramping things up because I've freed up a bit more of my time to focus on the investment side. We've got 2 offers on the table now, which is another 11 rooms coming into the portfolio in Ashford, and we're looking at more as we speak. You know, so looking to find funding money as well as new deals to put together, and yeah, want to smash the goals quite hard this year because we've been a little bit slow perhaps for the last couple of years.
It sounds really exciting, and a really good model there to do growth by acquisition.
Yeah.
A very fast way to grow the business. So
It
yeah.
was quite daunting the first time round, and there was a lot of due diligence and a lot of backwards and forwards with the solicitors and what have you. But
Yeah.
massive learning curve for both us as directors and shareholders, but also for our staff. And to the point that we saw a couple of our staff members who were heavily involved in kind of trawling through the data and stuff like that, and the accounts manager as well. Real good growth and learning exercise for them to analyze a proper company, tear it apart, and see what's going on underneath the business. And dare I say it, looking for skeletons, and thankfully there weren't too many. There were a few things that we'd like to improve on, and but that's why, you know, the business, we can add value to it. That's fine. But yeah, real good learning exercise for everyone involved. And even if you don't end up buying a business, I would say go through the process of being bold enough to look at it, because you will learn a heck of a lot in the process, ready for when you do find the right business to actually buy, if nothing else.
Wow, I think that's brilliant advice there. So again, Rick, really, really grateful. Thank you so much for coming on. Really
The
appreciate
opportunity.
the
Thank you.
time and sharing, I can only say, really good golden nuggets that people can take away. So do
Thank you.
appreciate that. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.